Okay. So anyone, please feel free to go ahead and let me know why you're here. What you expect to learn today. Yeah.
I think I don't tell it in a very firm or the confident way. I think that why I came here for the storytelling is because of the name. What I have insisted first, it's a storyteller. How we can hold our make a place in our children's heart. As an educator, they should remember us. So that ma'am, she did the class very well. Like she told the entire lesson in a big story that we could keep it in our mind till the end of our life. As a teacher, I I think in that way. Storytelling means that you should give the thing in a very mild and energetic and an enjoyable way, so the kids can keep it in their heart. And as well as the selfish thing is also there. When we do that, we will also be stay in the kids' heart forever.
All right. Great. Anyone else?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay. No, because I'm already into storytelling, I would love to learn from you and from other people who are over here some new, nuances of the storytelling, some new ways in which I can keep this younger audience enraptured, captured in my this thing, and asking for ye dil mange more, that type.
Okay.
So just looking forward for that. Yeah.
All right. Who else would like to share?
Can I say?
Please go right ahead, Tanzim.
I am Tanzim. As Nandita ma'am said, the same thing goes with me. I am here to learn new ideas and new ways to, make stories interesting and keep them engaged all the time. Keep the kids engaged. And as the other one of the teacher also said that she wants her kids to remember her for life. That this was the teacher. She told me this story in this way, and I remember it till today. So somewhere, yeah, even I feel that we all teachers have that thing in our heart that our kids should remember us through, the way we make a difference in their life.
Yes.
So that is why I'm here.
All right. Anyone else?
I think for the same reason, I'm also a storyteller, not as famous as you. I conduct English conversation classes and for kids and for adults. So when I conduct for kids, sometimes I do tell them stories, but like Nandita ji said, I wanted to learn some nuances and some good ways of doing that. And also I have a 6-year-old daughter. So every night, I have to tell her a story. So by evening, I'm like, which one to, tell her now? She wants a new story every day. So I thought, that's the reason.
Who else?
I would like to say,
yes.
I'm a trainer, and definitely like children like stories, but trainers also use a lot many stories. And my sessions are mostly every session has at least 2 stories. So that way. But I don't know whether how good storyteller I am. So I would like to learn this art from you and improve myself.
All right.
I want to say, I find it very intriguing to train through stories, not only children, but this train the trainer through stories, training in a corporate house, training in middle school, senior school, colleges. I find that really intriguing. So I'm hoping to pick up some kind of things from Akanksha in this field.
Sure.
I'd like to add one more thing. I'm a disciple of Sri Sri Ravi Shankar ji, The Art of Living. And every time I listen to his discourse, he will have 2-3 stories, some Mullah Nasruddin or something, so that makes the whole thing, the understanding of the subject very easy.
Sure. Anyone else?
Yeah, hi.
I would.
Yes, please.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, so I would like to add here that recently we celebrated Teachers' Day in our school, and a class 12 student, a group of students, they presented and they gifted a card and flowers and called their primary teacher, one of their primary teachers, as Ritu ma'am, our storyteller ma'am. So she was so thrilled. So I got interested, now to know okay, what is there in storytelling, how to get in touch, how to touch their hearts, how to remain in the hearts of your students for longer time, because they remember the stories what they learned in their primary classes, and now they are in 12th, but they remembered that teacher. Thank you.
All right. Harpal,
Yeah,
you
hi.
have wanted to say something.
Yes. So I find myself a little out of place, because looks like a women-dominated session, but nevertheless. uh, so I have a YouTube channel by the name of Harry the Storyteller. Although I've given myself this name before even starting off as a storyteller, but I want to take this up as a career.
1 second. Can you tell
Yeah.
me what is that YouTube channel name? Would you have that?
Harry, Harry, Harry the Storyteller.
Harry the Storyteller. Okay, this is amazing. So we got one storyteller channel itself. So by listen,
So I'm just taking baby steps towards this, and these stories are some of my experiences, life experiences, some which I read off the net or on the WhatsApp, or just try and narrate it in my own self. But I want to take this up as a career. So that's the objective. I am here to understand the nuances of storytelling and what all do I need to learn to become a storyteller.
Then you're in the right channel because of Akanksha ma'am.
Absolutely.
All right. Who else? Anyone else?
Yes, can I?
Please.
Yeah, I feel I'm running a school. I'm a teacher principal and I run a school, primary school. And whenever I indulge the children into storytelling, whenever I'm telling the story, they actually are listening to me with their eyes wide open, and they just wanted more and more. Every time I've made very strong connection with my own children. And I think it's a very beautiful and powerful way to put whatever I want to teach them through my story. So I concoct a lot of stories for them. Whatever problems the parents share with me, I concoct a story around that and give it to them. And somehow they don't even get to know that I'm teaching them something, but my purpose is absolutely fulfilled. So I love to do that, and I wanted to learn more storytelling techniques from you today. Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
I want to add a little bit here.
Yes, Rajan.
Yeah. Yes. Well, actually, why I am here, the major reason is because stories have great impact on my life. Whenever I start hearing stories, I get glued to the topic, and I really want to hear that. It interests me. And I feel that it interests everyone. Everybody is so curious. They are intrigued with the idea that somebody is going to start a story now. So that is one of the very big reasons, because being a trainer, it is very important that whatever your topic is, you have to present it like a story. And it is there everywhere in every field, in every topic. It is very, very important in our life. I have agreed to it. I have tried and tested. So I'm here to learn more about it.
Sure. All right. So, since you all had asked me to introduce myself, Akanksha, may I request you to just all right, I have done that. Okay, so since you wanted me to also tell you about storytelling, let's begin with this. There was this young girl. She was the daughter of this amazing teacher and an army officer. She was very intrigued by stories all the time. She was extremely conversant with English. She could make conversation in English very easily. Being the daughter of an army officer, she would have to keep moving to different locations all the time. And wherever she went, there was some way she wanted to create memories. In order to create memories, she would start and write them out in her diary. She had there was something about stories that touched her heart. Wherever she went, she met different friends and went to different schools, had different teachers. Some teachers made an amazing impact on her and on her life. There are people who were her teachers she remembers even till this day. One day, there was actually a teacher who, this girl, please remember, was a girl who was fantastic at her studies. She was an all-rounder. She actually stood out in class 5 as the #1 student. She won the gold medal. And then she moved cities and went from Bombay to Delhi. When she got to Delhi, she had exams as usual. Hindi paper failed. For the first time ever in her life, she failed. That teacher came and made a huge impact on the life of this little girl and her mother. She saw a tear escape from her mother's eyes. Her eyes grew wide open and she wanted to know more and more. She felt that, oh my God, what is this? I have never seen someone make my mother cry because of me. From that day onwards, this girl decided that this was something that would last in her memory forever. It was something that created an impact in her life. She had always believed that school is something that one should do in an energetic, enjoyable way. She had loads of memories. Stories intrigued her. Okay, so she thought about it and she went ahead and decided, let me try and change this story. She studied really hard. And by the end of that year, she scored over 80% in Hindi. And that teacher came out with her eyes wide open, saying that, oh my God, I have never seen something like this in my entire career. A student who went from zero to what you would call hero in a matter of barely half a year. Ever since then, this girl decided that she saw that tear in her mom's eye and decided that there was some way that she had to also make an impact, touch people's hearts, remain in their memories forever, do, learn, have newer nuances in life, and be able to go and create an impact to others. Use stories as a medium to actually get across to others. What did this girl go ahead and do? Well, she went ahead and studied mass communication. She did PR. When she did PR for about 25 years, she was telling stories on behalf of other organizations and companies. She did branding, she did advertising, and she felt a lot more fulfilled. She thought her purpose had been fulfilled. That whole incident created such an impact in her life that she decided to go out and start creating an impact in other people's lives. She wanted to train people using stories. Of course, with every passing day, there were more memories and a lot more stories to tell and create. That little girl is the lady who is sitting in front of you all today. I hope you noticed what I did. Has anyone noticed what I've done here? Anybody?
You've narrated your own life story in a form of a story.
Yes, but I hope you realize what I've done here is I spoke to some of y'all. Y'all have told me what y'all wanted to do and why y'all were here. Okay. There were things like English conversation, loving to learn, newer nuances, how to touch and remain in people's hearts, building a career in storytelling, eyes wide open, purpose fulfilled, impact on my life. You just told me that, right?
Yes, exactly. I was going to say that you've taken points from everyone and you immediately created a story out of it. And, you narrated it in a story form. So,
and that is the power of storytelling, right? So storytelling is something which creates an impact in the lives of people. It stays with you forevermore. Okay, the more the stories you listen to. In fact, it's been proved that stories are 20 times more memorable than facts and figures. This is something that was said by Professor Arkin from Stanford University. She's actually said this. Stories are 22 times more memorable. Okay. And that is exactly why one should build on the art of storytelling, because it is something that can be used everywhere in many different manners. Okay. Okay. I have a very quick thing here. So one day Bhai was traveling, he was driving this bus, and this was a bus which was going from from Mumbai to Delhi. I told you I went from Mumbai to Delhi also. Now on this bus, on the way, it started in Mumbai from Dadar. There were many people who got onto the bus. Amongst them, the people who really stood out was this woman who was wearing a gorgeous sari. She was draped in something that looked like silk and, had a lot of finery. And imagine a bus journey to Delhi. She was wearing these amazing slippers, which had a lot of different designs on them. There was another lady who had this baby, and there was a huge bag with her, which was full of various things for the baby because she needed that. Also, another gentleman climbed into the bus. He was dressed in a suit. He was joined with another lady who was in her salwar kameez with her dupatta perfectly laid out. The bus took off from Dadar and went to various other places. In Mumbai, you had this young guy with his girl who joined that bus journey, and they started driving. While they were driving, of course, they had their own bags. One had a backpack, the other one had her purse with her. There was a laptop bag with them. As the bus continued moving ahead, the bus first went and it stopped at Baroda. So in Baroda, you had people from Gujarat. Now, that is where Baroda is. I'm hoping everyone knows that. And they got on to that bus. As that bus proceeded, they realized that there were these young children, and it seemed like they were all going for a school tournament. Okay. They were wearing slippers of different kinds. Everyone wanted to get comfortable in the bus. So there was especially this one boy whose slipper was a broken one. The other boy was wearing a slipper that was actually a sandal. Then the bus moved on ahead. From there, it went to Udaipur. At Udaipur, you had another lot of people who got into the bus. Once they got into the bus and they continued walking as the bus moved ahead, the baby started crying. That lady had to then, of course, feed the baby. She didn't know what to do. The ticket collector was coming around asking people, ticket, ticket, ticket. All this was happening around them. As they moved ahead, of course, it became dinner time. There were enough people in the bus. Everyone was carrying their own bags. Everyone was wearing their own chappals. There, the bus stopped. People got off at Ajmer and started eating. The bus moved on ahead. Through the journey, there were people who got on, who got off, but the people I told you about continued to stay in the bus. After, next morning, everyone reaches Delhi. Okay. And the bus driver realized and noticed that there was a bag left in the bus. Any idea whose bag that could have been? The bag that was left in the bus, who did it belong to?
Maybe the mom with a small baby.
Maybe
You remember that lady who was joined by her husband, the man, and she had a baby and a bag. Maybe it was hers.
Okay.
The baby, the lady holding the baby, no, she has a big bag, no? Maybe her bag, I imagine, I think.
Okay. That's it. So, no, Mrs. Ahuja, we cannot hear you. Let me. I think everyone has been saying the lady with the baby, the lady with the baby, the lady with the baby. Ha, Mrs. Ahuja is saying no, I can see that. Why?
Your bag.
My bag. But I never told you I had a bag with me. Okay. I actually can't hear Mrs. Ahuja at all.
Ma'am, please unmute yourself.
You need to unmute yourself, ma'am.
I think the admin has muted everybody, so you need to unmute her. Yeah, I think now it is done.
It's okay. That's fine. I've been unmuted now. हाँ तुमने मेरी बोलती बंद कर दी थी भाई. अच्छा.
हाँ बोलिए ना.
नहीं, I presume when you're traveling from Bombay to Delhi, you will not be carrying with just a purse. So I presume it's your bag.
So you presumed it was my bag. Okay. Actually, no, it wasn't. It was someone else's. Okay. Now, if I tell you that there was a laptop in the bag, whose bag does it belong? Whose bag is it?
That young couple which came in?
Absolutely. And who was driving the bus?
Who's driving the bus? The driver.
Who was the driver? I told you who the driver was at the start.
Your brother.
Exactly.
Your brother.
Now, please understand, the first thing as a storyteller is the power of listening. So if you actually listen and pay attention to what has been said right from the beginning till the end, you will be able to understand stories better and tell those stories also a lot better. Why did you say my brother?
Because you told on the first time my bhai was driving.
I started with saying bhai driving the bus.
Bhai driving the bus. Yes.
Okay. But everyone remembered everything else. Nobody remembered that bhai was driving the bus.
I remember.
Okay. So what tends to happen in life also is there are many different things that can cause confusion for us. Okay. You'll have 20 things crammed into, let's say, one story or something that is happening in life. How are you able to filter that down? The most important thing being the power of listening. So as a storyteller, your first thing that you need to do is to be able to listen to stories. Right? Now, let's talk about why stories are important. I am going to share my screen. I hope everyone can see that. Well, we shall come back to that a little later. All right. Now, obviously, when you see a slide like this, you know, acha, okay, what is going to come next is a story. Well, not all stories begin like that anymore. All right. Like I told you, Jennifer Archer, the professor from Stanford, actually said stories are up to 22 times. Yes.
Ma'am, sorry to interrupt you. Can I able to record the session? I'm asking the host, may I able to record the session?
The
The
session?
request. I can record.
The session is live on YouTube,
on
so you
YouTube.
can go and you can watch it on YouTube later on.
No, I'm not. Not to watch. I just want these slides to get.
Oh, I'm happy to share the slides with you at the end of the session. I'll
Okay.
share it on the group, so don't worry.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank
All right. Let's go on. So we just talked about the power of listening. Now, I think we all know what are the important ingredients of a story, right? There always has to be a character in a story. This can be a person. Sometimes we'll say that it's an animal, depending on if it is a folk tale. There are other kind of tales where you'll have even things becoming characters. The other thing in a story is your setting or the environment within which your story is set. All right. So, for instance, if one takes a very simple story that everyone has heard of, Red Riding Hood. Your character there is Red Riding Hood. All right. Apart from her, of course, there's the wolf. Those are the two central characters. The setting is the forest, where she's walking through the forest and going to grandma's house. Now, what is the problem? The problem or the challenge is firstly not to go off the path. Secondly, to reach grandma's house safely. And thirdly, to ensure the safety of everyone. Right? And finally, the resolution was a problem got created, which is the wolf coming and attacking them and eating them up. How did it get resolved? The woodcutter came in and helped them get out of that situation. And they lived happily ever after. This is what one would do for a typical story. Now, these are stories, the kind of stories that one would probably go and tell the young ones, right? We all remember people like Red Riding Hood from our childhood days. That is why everyone knows the story. Okay, so in a story, these are the 4 most important things that every story should have. Having said that, is it only that? What is it that actually, helps or makes a good story? Any good story, and in fact, we were speaking to one of the participants a little earlier, Asif, about what really helps in storytelling and makes a good story. In today's world, it's very, very, very critical for your story to be about empathy. It has to be able to create that feeling of empathy within you. A story has to harness your emotions. A lot of you were saying that you're here today because, for instance, the students of the school, they wanted to go and present something on Teacher's Day to the teacher who they called the storytelling teacher. Okay, so it was about emotion, suspense. A lot of us love suspense stories, thrillers. If you look at someone like, has anyone heard of Agatha Christie?
Yeah.
Yes. So what are the kind of stories Agatha Christie is known for? Her
suspense stories, I guess.
Yes. And her most important character is someone who goes by the name of Hercule Poirot.
Poirot. Yeah.
Right? So things like Murder on the Orient Express. All right. Even in Red Riding Hood, you do have suspense building because she's walking through that forest and you keep wondering, oh my God, is she going to go off the path? She's going to go and pick up something, but she must remember mom said, don't go off the path, don't. So that suspense keeps building. Even when she reaches grandma's house and she says, what big eyes you have, grandma. You're saying, okay, there is some amount of suspense there. And finally, when the wolf lunges at her to eat her, you wonder, is this actually going to be a happy ending or not? So that suspense stays till the end of the story. Stories also have to foster aspiration of some sort. So, for instance, if you look at movies, because let's not talk about stories only in the context of books or a story that you read. Stories are things that we see around us all the time. You can watch a movie, right? Even that is a format of storytelling. Another format of storytelling is things like what you see on YouTube, your YouTube shorts. They are stories. You read a post these days on Facebook. That is also a story of some sort. Stories that foster aspiration, harness your emotions. These are all the ingredients of a good story. Well, now we have the ingredients. Now, what does one do with the ingredients? You first need to understand whether there are any other ingredients. Anyone who would like to add anything apart from this in terms of what makes a good story? All right, I'll move ahead then. Now, once we've understood that, we really need to understand what is it about storytelling? What is the effect of storytelling? So has anyone thought about the effect of storytelling in the long run? What effect would it have on people? Please unmute and...
Transformation, ma'am.
Okay.
If it is long, the story, if you're asking, if I'm correct, if the story is very long, means what will happen with the audience?
No, what I am asking is, what is the long-term effect of storytelling?
Helps them somewhere to develop their personality, their thinking, their way of behaving.
Absolutely.
Then they can remember the things, whatever we are insisting them, instead of just lecturing. So if you tell it as a story, they can remember it for a lifelong.
So it's
they
memory
can
remembering.
relate to the story. They can relate their situations in life, in future with the story.
Anything else?
I think a story can either make or break you. It can be a guiding factor for you, motivate you to do, achieve, inspire. Yeah. And if it is something which is not for your liking, then it can just demotivate you. It can just take you off the track also.
Absolutely. So,
and it's very, very powerful. Yeah.
Yeah. So the long-term effects of storytelling, to begin with, is listening and comprehension skills, which are skill sets that we start learning from a very young age. Your skill for communication, right? I do see some of y'all are communication trainers also here. Okay, so storytelling helps with your communication skills. The more you are able to learn and imbibe from stories, the better your communication skills. Of course, imagination and memory, I hope I have demonstrated that to you with the story I told you about myself also, using things that y'all told me right at the start of the session, right? Stories also make us culturally aware. When you go to, let's say, another city or even another country, it helps to listen to stories of those areas. It also helps to learn about stories of our own country. Like if we want to know our own stories, we do look at mythology, right? We will look at folk tales. And in fact, those should be encouraged. Your attitude, like Mrs. Ahuja rightly said, of course, your attitude also, a certain kind of attitude gets created when you learn the art of storytelling. Language acquisition skills, very, very critical and important in the long term. Because if you're able to acquire the right linguistics, now I'm telling you everything in English. I could tell you the same thing in English, right? Which is the mix of English and Hindi. Maybe someone else is a great storyteller in Oriya or Bengali, could be Gujarati. It helps you to be able to acquire those linguistic skills. Very often, I mean, I'm married into a Kannada family. My father-in-law watches a lot of things in Kannada. I don't speak the language. I don't understand the language. But I have started developing an understanding of it to a certain extent only because I keep listening to the stories that he's listening to. Moving on from there, I think these are basic things that all of us know as educators or trainers. The 5 W's and the 1 H, which is the who, what, when, where, why, and how. These are the key things you need to put together a story, and anyone can write a story at any point in time. Apart from that, what else? Like I told you, a story has will have character, setting, problem, solution. A story has to have a who, what, when, where, why, and how. Similarly, there is something else that there has to be in a story. Any idea what this could be?
Mountain?
It's actually very simple. So if you look at it, every story has a beginning. As part of your beginning, there has to be a background or a setting, which really takes care of your setting, like we said, in the 4 ingredients, right? Then there is a middle, which is your rising action moving towards the climax. The climax is that pinnacle that you're seeing up there. This thing that you see here is your climax. After which you have a story that peters down. This is what is known. Put it all together and this becomes the plot of your story. So it should help you to put together any story. And once again, I'll quote the instance I gave you of the story I was telling at the start of the session. Now, moving on from there. What else? Now, if I'm telling you about a plot, you'll say, okay, but how does the plot work? It's very simple. Let me show you 2 examples. Everyone has heard the story of Cinderella. So you have Madam Cinderella. Okay. So you have Madam Cinderella, and I hope everyone knows the story of Cinderella.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So what happened with Cinderella? Her story started with misery, after which it went rising up. It got to a pinnacle where she went to the ball. After the ball, oh no, she had to run away. By 12 o'clock, everything became awful. And after that, the prince and she lived happily ever after. Great story. Okay. On your on one axis, you have ecstasy and misery. The other axis, you have time. But now if you look at the common disaster story, it's the kind of story you read in the newspaper. Okay. That line that you're seeing in the middle, the black line, very simply is your line of normalcy. That is being normal, an ordinary day, an ordinary place, right? And your story can go either way. So an increasing number of stories have become like this. what are the critical keys to storytelling? So the critical keys to storytelling, any ideas? I've told you what are the different ingredients of a story. I have told you that you have to have this rising action, falling action, all of that. But when you have to be a storyteller, what do you need? What are those keys that you need?
Expression.
Absolutely, expression. There is no way you can tell a story without having an expression on your face. I cannot be sitting here just like the way a Doordarshan news reader would sit and read the news out to you. I'll soon have everyone leaving the session. Okay, so there has to be expression, of course. What else?
Voice modulation.
Voice modulation.
Extremely important. That is important in communication as well. So there's voice, there's expression. What else?
Again, an interesting story.
Of course, you need the interesting story, but you know what? You can make even a boring story interesting if you're a storyteller.
Props and illustrations.
Yes, because stories can be told in so many different ways. Now, you can see right now, this is moving.
Body language.
Body language. Again, very important. So there are at least 4 or 5 things minimum which contribute to you becoming a great storyteller. Without these, you can't master the art of storytelling. Now, since we all know voice modulation, okay, I could very well sit and do an exercise with you right now on modulating your voice, how you take it from a low pitch to a high pitch, which is as simple as sa re ga ma, correct? Well, I'm not a great singer, but I'm an awesome storyteller. So I'm going to leave those voice exercises out for now. Maybe we have a completely different session because, like I said, storytelling is a very wide thing. Okay, from here, oh, so much more to tell you. What else? There have to be, very often we need to use props. Okay, so let me tell you a Swedish folktale very quickly. There was a little girl. Her name was Inga. Inga had a wonderful family. It was just mom, dad, and her. But Inga didn't like doing any work. So Inga always sat with her hands on her lap. Mom would tie Inga's shoelaces, and Inga sat with her hands on her lap. Dad would go and wash the dishes while Inga sat with her hands on her lap. Everyone would be running around doing chores all the time. And while they did that, Inga sat with her hand on her lap. Now it was time for summer vacation. Inga was all set. She went to her grandma's place. She met all her cousins there. They were all having a great time. Everyone was playing, running, jumping, having a blast. Everyone did their chores every day. Everyone cleaned their rooms, made sure their sheets were all fine. Nobody sat and did those chores for Inga. Soon Inga realized that she was surrounded by messiness. She hated messy places. So Inga started to cry. Inga. But Inga still sat with her hands on her lap. Suddenly, out of nowhere, there came this man, a tiny man. And he said, Inga, you don't like the mess, do you? You know, I am your fairy godfather, and let me help you out. And before you knew it, Inga heard and she saw these 10 little people running around her room, and they cleaned up the room. There were fresh sheets that were laid out. Everything was great and wonderful. And all Inga was doing was she was sitting there with her hands on her lap. Well, her godfather said, Inga, don't worry. I will help you with one more thing before I go. Inga wondered what it could be. So he turned around and suddenly said, thumb, hop, hop. And suddenly there was someone who hopped onto Inga's thumb. Then he says, pointer, hop, hop. Tall man, jump on. The one next to him, come along. Tiny one, where are you? Come out now and let's have some fun too. Suddenly, Inga, her fingers could wiggle. She couldn't believe it. He repeated the same instructions for all the other fingers. And finally, Inga could wriggle all her fingers around. She couldn't help it. She was so excited. She ran downstairs. She did all the chores. She did the dishes. She cleaned the place. She did her room. And she ran out to play with her cousins. And from that day onwards, Inga never sat with her hand on her lap. Now, this is the kind of story that you can actually go and tell in preschool and primary. Learnings from this. What? 1, life skills. 2, chores and how important they are. The importance of being able to help and assist your family. Okay, the importance of learning things like that. The importance of coming together as a team and working. These are all the kind of takeaways from this story. If we go on from there, let's look at this. And I get this question very often. I don't know the subjects you all teach, but I've met a lot of people who I have wondered what I could help them out with. And it came to me one day. There was a boy called Pintu. Now, Pintu had just joined school. It had barely been 2 weeks in his new school. Wherever Pintu looked, Pintu saw that there was a close circle of friends. If he went to look for art, there was already a close circle of people in art. If he wanted to go and play basketball, there was a very close circle there. So Pintu started feeling a little out of place. Pintu wondered what he could do. So he decided to go and do what he loves doing, which was numbers. Numbers became Pintu's best friend. And Pintu went to the library and he started looking at different books which were talking about shapes and things like that. Suddenly he heard a voice. You, what are you doing here? Why aren't you out playing? When he looked up, he saw this man who looked like a teacher. And of course, that was none other than Mr. Ahmad sitting in the library. Mr. Ahmad looked at what Pintu was doing and realized that he was looking at shapes. So Mr. Ahmed pulled out now I can't find it, but Mr. Ahmed pulled out a compass and he asked Pintu, have you ever seen this? Do you know what this is? Sir, I have seen it before, but I do not know what it is. So Mr. Ahmed demonstrated to him and said that you fix a pencil on the other side and you then sit and you start drawing. And when one end meets the other, you get a circle. Circle. So Mr. Ahmed said absolutely right. And what Pintu managed to see that day was, I hope everyone can see that, a circle, right? Now, Mr. Ahmed said, Pintu, do you know that this thing is called the circumference of a circle? So he explained what circumference was. Then he said that if you draw a line from the center to the side, that is what forms the radius of a circle. Okay. Now, after Pintu had seen that and realized that, Pintu spent some time just drawing more and more circles. Mr. Ahmed then asked him, Pintu, how would you divide this circle in two? Oh, sir, I know how to do it. And he took a ruler and drew a line right in the center, dividing the circle into two parts. That's when Mr. Ahmed asked him, Pintu, do you know what that is? It is called diameter. So Pintu said, oh, thank you so much, sir. That is diameter. I did not know. And Pintu was so excited. He wanted to know more. But before he could know any more, the bell rang. And Pintu went back to class, very enamored, thinking about all these circles. And he just couldn't even focus on what anyone else was saying in class. Apparently, teacher announced there was a picnic and people could bring around whatever they wanted. Skipping ropes, hula hoops, all of that. So the next day, Pintu came to school and he saw people there. He was surrounded by circles everywhere. And they were beautiful, bright color of hula hoops everywhere. Suddenly, everyone looked at Pintu and went, Pintu. Everyone ran off to play. And there sat Pintu looking really sad. Mr. Ahmed came up to him and said, Pintu, what happened? Why are you sitting here? Sir, everyone has such beautiful hula hoop. But look at mine. Pintu had actually carried a tire to school that day. So Mr. Ahmed said, Pintu, it is not about what is on the outside. It is about what is on the inside. Pintu wondered what that meant. Then Mr. Ahmed went on to explain to him that there was something called pi. Okay, he explained the concept of pi. I shall share the story with you because of paucity of time. Very simply, he was able to explain the story of pi to him. When Pintu went to actually study more about pi in the library, this is the first thing Pintu saw. Can everyone see this?
Yes, yes.
And he was shocked because it was only numbers, 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 and it made no sense. There was nothing like 1 2 1 2 1 2, no sequencing in those numbers. And he kept searching and studying and studying and studying. Finally, he realized he found something. And do you know what that was? He found a phrase. And the phrase very simply was, may I have a large container of coffee. Let me repeat that. May I have a large container of coffee, which is what? 3.1. Okay, so you get that? That's how he learned the concept of pi. Then Pintu realized that there were children playing outside with a dartboard. And there was a circle in the middle of that they were throwing darts at. If one actually wants to teach the concept of things like diameter, radius, circumference, or pi as a math teacher in school, the story of Pintu works. It is also covered with an activity. The activity, very simple, is to have a square board with a circle in the center where each end of the circle is touching the sides of the square. The children who were actually throwing those darts that day were throwing the darts, and you simply had to take the total number, of darts and divide it with the number of darts within the circle. Okay. And that gave you a certain value. And when you multiplied that by 4, you ended up with pi. That was also the day Pintu realized that it doesn't matter how large or small your circle is. It could be this, it can be a coin, it can be a roti, okay, or it can simply be a plate. The value of pi will never change. All right. So that's how one can actually use a story to teach a concept in math. Right? And this is something that will get taught to children at a higher level. This is not for your pre-primary or primary children, because these are concepts that you go and learn in secondary or in middle school. Right? I will share the story of Pintu along with the activity that one can actually do. So you can actually put that dartboard up for your students and get them to play with that. Now, I've told you about something for pre-primary, primary. I told you about something for middle and secondary children. However, there are trainers here. And a lot of us do deal with students who are older than just grade 12. What is it that one should do for them? Now, a lot of people like to believe that for, adult audiences, fictional stories don't work. Well, I'm not one of those people. I believe you can use fiction to teach concepts to adults as well. For instance, there is a story. There was a fisherman, and the fisherman lived in a tiny hut with his wife. Every day he would go to fish at a lake. So one morning, again, he went off trudging to the lake to fish, and he cast his net, and suddenly, ta-dunk, this fish appeared. And the fish appeared and said, I am actually a prince who has been converted into a fish. So please, don't catch me, leave me here, and I will give you whatever you desire. So the fisherman said, fine, and he left the fish and went home. He told his wife this. His wife said, oh, what is wrong with you? Why didn't you tell him to give us a bigger house? Now go back and tell him to give us a bigger house. So the next morning, he went off to the lake again, beautiful blue lake, and he goes off again. And he says, "Oh, magic fish, oh, magic fish, where are you? Magic fish, where are you?" And out came the magic fish. So he said, I want to request for one thing. I want a cottage. So the fish said, "Granted." When he went home, he found a cottage. He asked his wife, "Are you happy now? We have a cottage." So the wife said, "Yes, I am." About a week later, the wife, not very happy. She told him, "You know what? I think we need a much bigger home than the cottage. So can we have maybe something like a palace?" So he said, "You want a palace?" She said, "Yeah." So he went back and goes, "Oh, magic fish, oh, magic fish, where are you?" And out came the magic fish. Magic fish said yes. He said, "Actually, I really want a palace. So could you give that to me?" The magic fish said, "Granted." The fisherman noticed that the blue water lake had turned green. Now it was purple in color, and he went home and he saw the palace. So he asked his wife, "I hope you're happy now." She said, "Yes, yes, I'm very happy." Once again, a week passed. After a week, the wife goes and says, "You know what? The palace is nothing, yeah. It's not enough. I need to also feel like a queen, right? So can we have a castle instead?" "You want a castle?" "Yes." Fisherman was not really very happy with the whole idea of a castle. So his wife wanted it. He still went ahead. He went back and went again. "Oh, magic fish, oh, magic fish, where are you?" And out comes the magic fish. Once again, he asks the magic fish. The magic fish grants his wish. He goes back. He asks the wife, "I hope you are happy now. I've gotten you this." "Okay." So the wife says, "I think it suffices. I'm very happy to be a queen." After a week, she says, "Now I want a large, proper kingdom. I want to be God." The fisherman says, "What is wrong with you? You want to be God?" By then, the water in the lake had already turned black. "So you want to be God? I don't think that will be possible." Of course, he'll give it to you. Go, ask him." So he went back and asked, and here, ready to be God. The magic fish heard that and told him, "This is ridiculous. Don't you ever dare come back here ever again." And having said that, the magic fish disappeared. When he went back home, he was back in his cottage. And he looked around and he told his wife, "Isn't this exactly what we needed?" Now, this is the kind of story that I normally tell when I am working with participants or even with management students to talk to them about the concept of change management. Why and how? Now, if you look at it, there was a change every 1 week. In a corporate, if you have a change every 1 week, things don't really work out very well. Not only that, it is also to teach participants a certain concept in change management, which I call the ADKAR concept, which is about awareness, desire, knowledge, okay, about acceptance and reinforcement. Were they aware they needed change? Yes, they were. Was there a desire to change? She had the desire to change, but he didn't. Right? The knowledge, how to go about that change, did it exist? No, it did not. Were they accepting of the change? And were they happy with the change? No, I can see heads nodding saying no. No, they were not. All right. And from there on, one can actually direct this story such that you are able to teach the concept of change management to adult audiences. So when you have to connect with adult audiences, these are the kind of things that you can actually go ahead and do. Now, if you look at it, to even do all of this, and even me sitting here in front of you today, what is it that I'm doing? I'm telling you about the art of storytelling. But to do this, there were certain steps. What do you think were the steps? Let me tell you the steps. First, you have to be able to collect your stories, right? You need to find those stories from somewhere. Fine. After you have found the stories, you have to be able to connect them properly with other concepts that you're working with. So select a story, then prepare a story, and finally, you go ahead and you tell the story. The story has to be such that when you're putting together your program, you must keep your audience in mind, which is why I knew today my audience is largely going to be educators and trainers, but largely educators. It has to be relevant to your audience, otherwise it doesn't make sense. There has to be a certain context to your story. Otherwise, it will not make sense to somebody. And finally, there has to be a deep theme. If you don't have that deep theme, it will not move ahead. That is how you actually work on your art as a storyteller. And with that, I am very happy to take questions that anyone may have. Usha, I know that we've gone way over time. However,
it's interesting. So people are there listening to you. So
Great.
It means it's going great.
Great.
But that's what happens with a story, no?
You get so engrossed in it. So, all right, any questions?
No
questions, ma'am. I just want to appreciate one thing. I got what is the essence you told no in the starting, the essence. I couldn't imagine even math can be related with the story.
Absolutely.
The way you have narrated the story with the shapes, I got an idea because my children now, they are having the shapes. Just now they finished learning the shapes. I can make them very clear about the shape by telling the story to them. Really, it was amazing, and a round of applause for you. I couldn't imagine that maths can be connected with the story. This is the first time I am hearing, and I'm amazed. I got the essence. What you told, no? The essence is needed. So I got this essence. I want this essence to be continued. Whenever the webinar is there, please let us know. We can come and get connected with you because we have to learn a lot. Today, I really impressed and amazed, and I got an idea that this I just came to the right area where because of that fascinating word storyteller, you can relate that story to whatever you wish. The thing, what are all the words we told you, you narrated the story in the first.
You can actually use storytelling not only for math, you can use it to do stories with science. You can use it for
geography,
history.
Every subject we can relate to the story
can be taught through storytelling.
Yes, but you have taken a correct mark with the math, because geography, history, science, we can connect everything with the story. But you have given the right what to tell, right the point, right, the arrow is on the center of the dot now, because you have given that amazing subject. Math also can be given in the story, because we know other things we can connect with the story. Science, English, Tamil, whatever the language, we can connect it. But math, we can connect with the story. This is the first time I'm listening it. And I just wonder, okay, we can make this in that way. That was amazing, ma'am. What the essence we came, I just...
A question that I get very often when I conduct storytelling sessions, that, but how will I do it with math?
Everyone says because of formulas, everything. Now, before that, I just wondered math can be told as a story, but now I think math can be very well it can be related with the life.
Absolutely,
it can be given as a life story itself, so that they can learn everything in
at
there.
The preschool level, we are quite used to doing storytelling for math. You know, like the way you learn numbers. Now, even with Inga, okay, I don't know if anyone heard, but initially when I talked about those 10 people in the room.
I understood, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So math there in that story as well, to teach them the number of fingers. Not only that, as an activity for children, you can actually get them to do things like using their handprint and doing things like, maybe creating a peacock, or even making these same finger puppets. It'll make it a lot more interesting. Even though you're using it for math. When
will be the next session? When will be the next webinar?
We'll keep you posted on that.
Same time. This will be the right time, because all the things are worked out. After returning from the work, we get time for getting fresh up and everything, and the right time we can sit and have.
For that, you have to thank Uksha.
Thank you, ma'am.
I'm sharing a group link, WhatsApp group link, so you can join that group. And we have all the upcoming webinars posted on that. So you,
definitely, ma'am. Definitely. So amazing.
Everybody who wants to get the notifications about the upcoming events, they can join the group. Okay.
Definitely.
I'll be sharing that also. Yeah.
It's very nice, ma'am. It's very useful for the educators.
Questions, observation, sharing. Yes, please.
Can I share?
Please.
Yeah, no. We're talking about stories and how Annie was talking about maths. So I remember I had done it with some school children, younger ones. There's one child who did not like maths at all. So, I said, okay, we'll take all the numbers out of your life. Take them out. Okay? Evening, Mama, it's time to play. Can I go out? What's the time? There's no watch. No number in the house. I don't know if it's the time to play or not. Okay, when is my birthday? Number. But we don't have a calendar. So in that way, to bring out the importance of numbers in child's life. And another thing, Akanksha, I want to share with all of you, with my younger granddaughter. She was learning about animals. So, she loved the story about Nani takes Aisha to the jogger's path. All right. Now, while going to the jogger's path, now to innovate, So I said, okay, Aisha, we are seeing a cat standing there with a baby. Should we ask her if she wants a lift? Okay. So we stop. So the cat says, yes, you can take, but provided you give me 2 answers. What is my baby called? And where do I live? Do I live in the wild, or do I, domestic or wild? So this is how she learned about the young of animals and their domicile, where they stay. So that has stayed with her, and then it went on adding and adding and adding, to whatever it is. So it's beautiful, I think. Storytelling is a beautiful thing.
Great. I hope you all enjoyed today's session.
Yeah.
10%, 100%, above 100%. Above 100%.
I am just sharing my email ID and my phone number on the chat with you right now, so that whoever would love to connect, please feel free to go ahead and connect with me. I hope everyone can see that.
Yes.
And I would definitely love to keep you posted on proper programs, because honestly, when I normally do the programs, these are at least 2 to 3 day sessions. It's not just a 1 day session.
Yes.
Evening sessions will be apt. That's amazing, because we are, as a working women, evening sessions will can have some refreshment, and we can sit and have a very peaceful mind. When we are in very peace mode, everything will enter into the mind as it is. No need to worry. This 1 hour session is very apt, and the timing is very, very apt. Usha ma'am, really a round of applause to you, ma'am.
Absolutely.
Both of you. For both of you,
Thank
your
you. Thank you so much.
expressions and storytelling is
Thank you so much.
amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much
Thank you.
for this
Good night.
useful
Uh,
webinar.
Thank you, ma'am.
We'll just, I would request everyone to, if you can turn on your camera so we can have a group photo before we move, like if we close the session. Is that okay with everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you
Always
so
ready
much.
for a picture.
Yes.
Super, ma'am.
Lovely, 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 lovely.
Why is
Yeah.
my buddy not sitting on a
Just
camera?
a few more. Yeah. Okay. It's okay if somebody is not okay with that.
Yes.
I'm going to click it. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. And thanks a lot, Akanksha, for giving this time and sharing such a wonderful art of storytelling, and all the lovely people, those who stayed glued to this session. And I know it's an evening time, and especially for women, it's like sharing both the responsibilities, it becomes difficult, but still you are there. And few gentlemen, I would say they are still there. Captain, Group Captain Sandeep Sarkar, and here is, I think, or who else is there? And the male members. So there are hardly one or two. So thank you so much for giving this support to all of us. Thanks a lot. Once again, I'm overwhelmed.
Someone had another query.
Yeah.
I had seen someone raise their hand. If not, then we're fine.
If I missed that. Okay. Okay.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Akanksha.
Thank you so much.
It was a wonderful session and learned a lot of things. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Good night.
I missed
Thank you.
Ushaji, I missed that session of on creative graphic designing that you
Canva session. I'll be conducting it now. I'll be conducting it, but with the small token.
Okay.
Ma'am, share that slides in the group, ma'am. PowerPoint presentation.
Yes, yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much, Usha
Yeah.
ma'am and Akanksha ma'am. We are waiting for the next webinar.
Please join both the groups.
The next webinar. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Please
Nice
take your
meeting
leave.
you all.
Good night. Good night,
Good night.
everyone. Good night, Akanksha.
Good night.
Good night, Alkaji, and everyone. Thank you. With your permission, I just close the meeting.